How many of you have ever played with a Ouija board? Everybody knows what a Ouija board is, right? It's a wooden board. It has the letters of the alphabet on it, numbers 0 through 9, yes and no, and the word goodbye. Well, I've got a tale today that dates back to my childhood when, yes, a friend and I did play with a Ouija board, and this is what happened. Hi, I'm Neferkefri, your hostess with the ghostess. You are watching True Tales of the Paranormal. If you like what you see, I ask that you please like the video, subscribe, and above all, drop a comment. Comments really help us YouTube creators because comments tell the YouTube algorithm there are people interested enough in our videos to leave a comment. And then that will have the algorithm show the video to more people. And for all the other creators that you follow and enjoy, please comment on their videos too, even if it's just to say, hi from Chicago or whatever. It really does help. And now on to today's True Tale of the Paranormal. I'm recording today in our inner sanctum, our bedroom. And today's story dates back to August 1977. I was born in 1963. So in 77, I was what, 14? And I remember the date was August, like the 18th or the 19th. It was 1 or 2 days after Elvis had died. Now, my family were all huge Elvis fans. I was raised on his music. And so the day he died, we all took it really, really hard. It is literally the only time I ever saw my mom cry in my whole life. The only time. And a couple days afterwards, so now we're talking, the 19th, the 20th, something like that, I went over to a friend's house. Now, they had a one-story home, and behind their home and off to the right, they had a garage, and they had built a sun porch onto the side of that garage, a screened-in sun porch. It was really nice. And my friend and I would go out there and, play. And so we were out there, and they had a bunch of board games in a shelving unit there, and we would play board games, or we'd color, or we'd just, sit and shoot the breeze, whatever. And we looked through the board games thinking we'd play something. And there was a board game there called Ouija. And we were like, what is this? I mean, we didn't even know. And so we pulled that out and read the rules. And it seemed, simple enough. You put your hands on the planchette lightly and you ask if there's anyone there and see if any messages come through. And so us being kids, she was like a year younger than me. So, I was 14, she was 13, maybe even 12. We didn't know what it was. And it was, by, what was the big gaming company that put it out? Was it Milton Bradley or was it Parker? I should have Googled this before the video. I'm sorry. It was one or the other. And the Ouija board is and has always been marketed as a game. Is it a game? You'll be able to determine that at the end of this video. So, we set it on the table, and her family were Elvis fans as well. And since he had just died, we tried to contact Elvis Presley. So we had our hands on the planchette, we're like, Elvis, are you there, Elvis? Everyone loves you, Elvis. We're so devastated you're gone, and all this. And all of a sudden the planchette started to move. And it spelled out, I am. And of course we got all excited because we thought it was going to spell out Elvis. But it didn't. It spelled out, I am not Elvis. And we were like, oh, wow. So we had a different spirit, you know? And so we asked it, well, spirit, what is your name? And it spelled out DEVI. And then from the I, it was starting to head down to the L to spell out devil. And I realized that, and I pulled my hands off the planchette. My friend did the same thing because I scared her. And I said, it's spelling out devil. And she screamed, I screamed, and we ran out of the porch and into the house. And we ran in through the back door that opened up into their kitchen. And her mom's in the kitchen making something. She was a great baker. Oh, man, she made the best desserts. Oh, my God. So anyway, she was in there baking something. And we're like, Mom. And she's like, what's the matter? What's the matter? And we told her what happened. And she says, oh, you probably shouldn't even be playing with that thing. I don't even know why we still have it. I need to throw it out. And that was the end of it, right? So we, continued, to play, and then I went home. Well, I'm not sure how long it took, but probably it was before we started school, and I'm from Northern Illinois, and back then we started school just after Labor Day, so the first week of September. So we had not started school yet. So it was 1 to 2 weeks later. And my friend came over to play. And so we're in my room and we're talking on my bed. And then she goes, I've got to tell you something. I said, what is it? She goes, it's really, really bothering me. I said, what? You're a kid, you're that age. You're not used to your friend saying, I need to tell you something. It's really bothering me. That's something you hear as you get older. I said, what is it? She says, I had something really weird happen to me 2 nights ago, and I don't even know what to think about it. I'm afraid to tell my mom because my mom is ultra religious, and she was a former Lutheran who had converted to Roman Catholicism, and she went whole hog into Catholicism. She went to several trips to Medjugorje in Yugoslavia where the Virgin Mary was appearing. And very religious woman, very devout woman. And I said, why can't you tell your mom? Does it have something to do with religion? And she goes, I don't know. I don't know what to think. I'm going to tell you. You let me know. Let me know what you think. I'm like, okay, what is it? She said that when she went to bed, she was laying there and she kind of felt like, you know how you can kind of tell when someone's looking at you from behind, that feeling you get of being watched. Well, she said she had that feeling in her bed. Now, she had 2 brothers who were way older than her. Her bedroom was downstairs. Their bedrooms were upstairs. And then her parents' bedroom was down a short hallway very close to her bedroom. But not to where they could peer into her bedroom, And I think she also slept with the door closed. And she says she felt a pair of eyes on her. And so she wasn't yet asleep. She opened her eyes and she saw a dark, shadowy figure seated at the foot of her bed. And for all intents and purposes, it looked just like a person was sitting there at the foot of her bed, turned. They kind of had their back partially toward her, and they had turned around and they had placed both their hands on the bed and they were just staring at her intently. Well, she screamed and ran out of her room. And her parents were like, what's the matter? What's the matter? And then she kind of blew it off and said, oh, I think I just had a bad dream. Again, she didn't want to tell them because of how religious her mom was. And she told me she was afraid the mom was going to call in the priest from the church and who knows who all else. And so she's telling me this, right? And I'm like, well, to me, that doesn't sound too good. Usually when you hear about, loved ones coming to visit, they have white light, gold light around them, or angels or whatever. They don't come all black and shadowy. That sounds kind of bad. to my kid way of thinking at the time. And, and even now to my adult way of thinking, you see a black shadow figure, you're like, whoa. Well, I said to her, okay, I said, you need to, pray before you go to sleep and ask, for protection. And she goes, I do that. I do that every night, And I'm like, And then I remembered the Ouija board, but I didn't say anything on that day. I thought, don't tell me that whoever we had gotten a hold of was now roaming around my friend's house. And I was like, and then I started thinking back to it, and I was like, we didn't say goodbye. We didn't tell the game goodbye. We ran out of the sun porch screaming. And I was like, oh crap. And so a couple more days go by, and now we're getting really close up to the time that school is starting. And so my friends are calling me, wanting to come over, wanting to do things before school starts. And so this friend calls me up and says, you want to come over? And I said, yeah, I'll come over. So I go over there to her house. We're in her room. And as soon as we shut the door, she turns to me. She says, it happened again. And I'm like, what? The black shadow guy? And she's like, yes, it was here in my room again last night. And I'm like, oh my God. I said, what did it do? She says the exact same thing. She was laying there trying to go to sleep, and she felt like she was being watched. She opened her eyes, and she saw that dark shadow figure sitting at the foot of her bed with its back toward her, but turned and twisted with its arms on the bed, looking at her. So it was like really twisted at the waist, unnaturally twisted, because she tried to mimic to me exactly what it looked like to her, and her waist would allow her to make that, it was basically like a 90-degree turn or something. And I said, man, I don't know what to tell you. I said, you prayed for protection, right? She goes, yeah. And, and I asked Jesus and all the saints, and I called on St. Michael. And I'm like, well, if you called on St. Michael and that thing still came, that means it's really, really bad, because every Catholic knows St. Michael is the archangel responsible for kicking Lucifer out of heaven. And then Lucifer falls into the abyss and becomes Satan and the devil. So I told her, I said, we're going to have to tell your mom. And then I told my friend, I think I know what happened. She's like, what? And I said, remember when we played with the Ouija board? She goes, yeah, what's that got to do with this? I said, let me finish. We didn't close the board. We didn't say goodbye. We ran out of your sun porch screaming. And she goes, you think that made a difference? And I said, I don't know. I said, I just know we had something talking to us through that board that was not good. And we didn't say goodbye. I said, what happened? And what happened to the board? And she goes, oh, my mom went out there later that night and took it and threw it in the trash. It's gone. The trashmen have been here and gone already. And I'm like, oh gosh, that's not good. That means we can't go in there, get the board out, and just tell it goodbye, and hopefully this thing would go away, We didn't have that option. We were kids. We didn't have a car. We can go out and buy a new board. And do you think after what happened with us being so scared that her mom was going to buy another Ouija board, especially considering how religious she was? Nothing doing. So we weren't sure what to do, right? Well, time goes by, okay? And now it's like right before Halloween. So, we're going to school and stuff. And she and I went to different schools. And her mother and my mother were best friends. And so it was right before Halloween. And my mom gets a phone call from my friend's mom. And they're chatting. And then I can hear my mom go, oh, really? What do you mean by that? And then, a pause. And then, oh my God, are you serious? Then another really long pause as my friend's mom's talking to my mom. And then my mom says, have you told your priest? And I'm thinking, uh-oh, something really bad must have happened. And I'm like, I hope they're okay. And I just started, I got this really sick feeling in the pit of my stomach. I even have it right now just talking about it. You know, because I felt really guilty. I knew this was our fault because nothing like that had ever happened in my friend's house before we played with that Ouija board. Nothing at all. And so my mom gets off the phone and we all go in the kitchen. My dad and I was raised an only child. We all go in the kitchen to have dinner. And in my family, the custom often is to talk about weird and freaky stuff at the dinner table. And I don't know how it started. I think my dad started it. And he had a lot of weird experiences growing up and everything. So he would share his stories with us over dinner. And Mom says, well, for the first time ever, I've got a freaky story to tell you. Because nothing ever happened to my mom. Nothing. And she was always upset about that. I always felt a little left out. And we're like, really, what? She goes, well, it doesn't involve me. And she turns to me. She says, it's about your friend. I go, oh. She goes, do you know about this? And I'm like, maybe. And she's like, well, this is what I was told. And then she recounted to me exactly what I told you my friend had told me about the shadow figure. Except that now what happened was her brothers, who slept in 2 bedrooms upstairs, well, they were asleep up there. And one of them was awoken to the sensation of having his covers pulled off of him from the foot of his bed. Like someone's standing there at the foot of his bed and they're slowly pulling the covers off of him. And so he jerks completely awake going, you know, what's happening? And he's trying to get, you know, his senses about him. And then he starts thinking, oh, it's my crazy brother. So he just reaches down and grabs the sheets and pulls them back up, right? He says, leave me alone, go to sleep. You know, and he turns over. He doesn't even bother to look. And he just turns over and hunkers down. And he's got the blanket up over him. And he's trying to get back to sleep. Well, he had his hands lightly on the blanket, and all of a sudden the blanket just immediately gets pulled off to the foot of the bed, completely pulled off of him. And my friend's brother stands up out of bed, looks at his brother, who is sound asleep in his own bed, and there's no one else up there. So the kid just starts screaming. The parents go running up there, and then, of course, there's just this huge ruckus about what happened to him. And that's when my friend had to fess up. And she also shared my theory that we never said goodbye on the board, that probably whatever was talking to us is now in their house. And yes, my friend's mother did call a priest. They had a priest come out to their home and bless the home. And that entity, it never left their home. The last I heard about it, I was a freshman now in college. And my friend was saying that every once in a while, she, her mom, and one of her brothers could see that dark shadow figure. The eldest brother and the father could never see it or sense it. And so that's what happened when 2 little girls decided one summer day to play with a Ouija board. Have you ever played with a Ouija board? Let me know in the comments below. And if you've ever had something freaky happen to you after playing with a Ouija board, drop that in the comments too. I'm sure others would love to hear what happened. So if you liked this video, I ask that you please subscribe and comment, give the video a like, and I'll be back next week with another true tale of the paranormal. This is Nefer Kefri, your hostess with the ghostess, wishing you a wonderful day ahead.